Hey guys, today we're catching and cooking chicken. That's right, chicken. But not only that, I'll be doing without any modern tools whatsoever. I'll be using my bare hands and ingenuity, right from the fire to the meal. I'll be wrapping this guy in clay and cooking him in the fire. I don't know if it's gonna work. I'm gonna keep the feathers on. I'm gonna keep the intestines in. Don't know if it's gonna work. Join me to find out. All right guys, obviously catching this bird is gonna be the easy part. The tricky part is gonna be that I'm gonna be cooking this bird 100% without using any modern tools whatsoever. I'm gonna be using my bare hands and my modern brain and my ingenuity to cook this bird up. So we've had these as meat birds for a few months now. We've raised them since they were little chicks. So obviously catching it's gonna be the simple part. So I'm not gonna do that right away. Plus I don't want the bird to spoil in the heat that we're having today. So first things first, I need to dig myself a hole and get myself some clay and mix that with sand to make some mud to wrap this bird up. So step number one is to dig a hole. This bone is going to make the perfect digging implement. It's something that humans have been using forever to dig with. This happens to be a cow bone, but obviously you could find other types of more naturally occurring bones in and around wild habitat, such as a moose bone, elk bone, or even a deer bone. This will make a good digging implement. Now the reason I need to dig is because I know this property has clay, but it's not at the surface. It's about 2 feet down, 1 to 2 feet I would say. So I need to dig down deep enough that I can get to the clay. I don't want to use sand, as that will not bind around the bird and cover the wings and feathers. So we got to dig a hole deep enough that we can get our clay and extract it. So I'm actually standing in my garden for this year. As you can see, it turned out really good. It's actually just littered with weeds this year. I couldn't keep on top of it with all the trips I was doing up north and down south. So this is what I ended up with. As you can see, nature will absolutely take over anything you try to do that's man-made. And this is a prime example. But it is a good place for me to dig because the soil's already been turned over and I can get down fairly easily with this kind of tool. Otherwise, it'd be like digging through cement. Hey guys, might be hard to tell, but there's a distinct layer here where it changes from regular soil. I say regular soil, but it's pretty much clay here, and it changes to an orange color here. So that's our clay. That's our version of clay. So that's the soil I need. I need a lot of it because I need to cover that whole bird up. Alright, we're getting a pretty good consistency here. I want to make sure I get all the dry spots out of the bottom. Any dry spots won't solidify and crack. If you haven't figured it out yet, we're actually going to wrap the bird in this mud. And I'm not going to take the feathers off or gut it. I have no idea if this is going to turn out or not. So you guys are learning with me. I'm also hoping I have enough to cover the entire bird. After I get this in a good consistency, I'm going to add some sand to it. And the sand is going to act as a binder. Just like when you make cement, you mix it in ratio. I don't know the exact ratio, I don't think it matters. I did another video when I wrapped venison and it turned out really well. And I've always wanted to try it with a bird with the feathers on to see if maybe you could skip the step of plucking it. There's an additional reason why you would cover your meat in mud, and that's to contain the moisture. When you cook over a fire, maybe you don't have a lot of experience cooking over fire, but if you were to do a rotisserie chicken, you'd have to do a rotisserie chicken. You'd have to turn it. And the reason you'd have to turn it is to keep the heat evenly applied. When you cook over a fire, you always have really hot spots and then you have cool spots. The cool spots can be on the edges or on the top, and the hot spots are on the bottom. So if you're cooking over a fire and you have your entire thing wrapped in rock, essentially, mortar, then that heat is going to be dispersed evenly. So I should be able to just plop this in the middle of the fire, or the spot that I want the fire to be, build a fire over top of it, and cook the bird through, all in one go, without having to attend to it. That makes the job of cooking a bird evenly all the way through a lot easier. You can see that this is becoming a really good gooey sticky mess. In fact, if I let this to harden and I threw it at somebody, it might even kill them. This could become rock solid, and that's the idea. We put the bird on the inside, we let it turn into rock, and we cook it, and then when we pull it apart, hopefully those feathers remain inside this mess of mud and we're left with a delicious bird on the inside. That's the idea. Who knows if it'll work. I can feel a lot of sticks and rocks. I want to try to get as much of that out as I can. And I want to make sure there are no dry edges so that the layer here doesn't want to break apart on me. I want it to form a nice solid layer for the duration of cooking. So I'm going to be using a modern rope here. The idea is simple. I'm going to tie up the feet, hang the bird upside down. That should help calm the bird. As the blood pools to the bird's head, it will relax and also draw a lot of the blood down. So when I use my stone knife, I should be able to cut the bird's throat, the jugular vein, and that will help bleed the bird out. So I am going to be using a modern rope for that purpose. I just feel that I don't want to use something made of tree bark, inner tree bark or something like that, or natural cordage, because I don't want to risk making this a less humane possible than it absolutely can be. So we're going to tie this bird up by the feet, and then we'll hang it upside down by a tree, and we'll slit its throat, and that'll be it. So anybody who's opposed to this, I hope you're a vegetarian or vegan, because these are where your chickens come from. I could go to the store and get one that's already dead, but if you give me 5 minutes, we'll have a bird that's already dead. These are how your birds get to your plate when you buy them from the supermarket. If you guys like chicken wings, here's your chicken wings. Here's your chicken feet. This isn't any different. So let's make this quick and painless for the chicken. It's at its natural life end anyway. It can't get any bigger than it already is. Its heart is having a difficult time pumping that blood around in its circulatory system because it's outgrown its size. But these are by genetic design. These are by years of breeding chickens to pack on the weight. So they're adding on for every 2 pounds of feed, 1 pound of chicken mass. So if you do like to eat meat, this is how it's done. You're converting carbohydrates, some proteins and fats into animal feed for us. All right, so the deed is done. Now all we got to do is throw it in the creek and wash it off. Alright guys, if anybody's curious, this knife worked perfectly. It's Jay Valenti makes these knives for me. It's a stone knife, so technically it's not a modern tool, which is why I'm able to use it. I had toyed around with using a stone. I did have some sharp stones with me, but I thought it'd be more fitting to use a Stone Age tool since I'm pretty much using Stone Age technology to cook this bird. So next step is to just work the clay and sand mixture into the feathers. And the idea is after it cooks, it's going to pull the feathers and likely the skin off, leaving a delicious meat on the inside for consumption. So let's get that done next. Well, I've either got just enough clay or just not enough clay, depending on if you want to look at the glass being half empty or half full. And I'm running out of time to get this bird cooked. It's going to take several hours to cook, so I don't think I can go back up and dig anymore. So we'll see how it goes. I threw it on the fire base right now, because I finding as I was picking it up, the clay was actually tending to want to fall off. It is a big bird for this project. I would have preferred a smaller bird, but that's what I got. The other birds, in case you're wondering, went off to slaughter this morning, and I had one kept back for me to do this project with. So I thought it would be interesting to learn how to do it. So, as I've mentioned, these are meat birds. They're genetically bred for meat production. They put on lots of meat in a very short period of time. Just trying to make sure I fill the cracks in so that the bird doesn't burn in spots. Well, I think I've done a pretty good job. It's a pretty good seal. I know the bottom has a few cracks in it. Without reaching up and fixing them, that's just what I got. I think it'll settle and then compress along the bottom, but I think most of the heat's going to come from the top anyway, and it's going to cook down as this rock here heats up. So I may have some burnt edges, some crispy edges. That's okay. I think I did, for my first time, I think I did a pretty good job. I think this bird's too big for this procedure. I would have preferred, like I said, a smaller one. That's the dirty work. That was a lot of work. Now well, still I have to make a fire, so I'm going to do a hand drill fire. So thankfully I have some tools already prepared. I have my bottom board and I have my hand drill. This is made out of mullein. It's a common weed species. You can find it. If you're not sure what mullein is, look at some of my old videos or search it. It's a pretty common weed found around city areas. I have stored back some cedar. This isn't prepared yet. This is rough cedar. To collect cedar for your tinder bundle, you're going to scrape your tree down until you get a nice fuzzy mess like that. And I also have available some bedding from my fort here, my shelter. Call it a fort. I'm not a kid anymore, right? It's a shelter now. In here that I can bundle up, and that will be a flash tinder inside of my cedar bundle. So all I need to do now is make the fire. Just gonna have a peek inside to see if anyone made a home in there. Nothing so far. So I can just grab some of this dry grass here, and that'll make a good nest for the ember. Alright guys, we're set to go. What I'm hoping to do is actually reuse one of the holes I already have in here, one of the notches, so that I don't have to redo it and start from scratch. That may end up being a mistake, but it's not like this is the first time I've ever made a mistake on this channel. I've got my tinder bundle ready. It's dry grass with a cedar inside. I know if I make an ember, that's going to work. I know it's dry. I don't know if I can get an ember out of this. In hindsight, I probably should have used my bow drill. My bow drill is almost 100% reliable for me. Hand drill is something that if you don't keep up with it, your hands unfortunately lose the calluses and you're back to start from scratch again. All right guys, here goes. All right, we got some smoke. All right, here goes. Okay, that's all I got. Gonna wait. I might give it another one. Yeah, the smoke stopped. That's it. I'm all the way through the whole board. So I got a little bit of a coal here, but not much. I don't want to move it just yet. Gotta do it real carefully. Okay, that actually helped it. It was pretty smothered in there. I gotta be careful because I actually went right through. There's a hole there. I don't know if you could tell, but I went right through my board. That's the risk you take when you use your existing notch. But obviously I've got a really good ember here now. It's not a big one though, so I do have to move it. Just transferring it over here so you guys get a better look. Oh, it's sticking. I hate transferring it. I always mess this part up. Just gonna use a stick here. Do it real carefully. See, I always move too fast and I grab a strand and I end up knocking it. Okay, so we're in there. Now we want to get it nice and bundled up, nice and tight, so it has a nice little home in there. How many times did I say nice? Okay, we're good. Okay. Now we can relax and watch the magic happen. I gotta find my ember again. There it is. So the technique to blow on this, it's not like you're blowing out a candle. When you blow out a candle, you go, that blows the candle out. But this, you feed it oxygen. So you start off slow and then you pick up your intensity. More smoke, more oxygen. We're getting there. When you get real good, you'll figure out when it's about to ignite, and it's really close. Here goes. That's just magic, pure magic. Once we get this fire going, it's only a matter of waiting about 3 hours for that to cook. Stuff's not easy. So a nice big fire like that, it's gonna cook the chicken from all sides. But that's not enough wood. Still need to get some more. We're gonna pile it up nice and high, let those ashes and embers and all that stuff land on top of that bird and cook it. All sides, nice and evenly, and that solid mass of mud is going to transfer the heat, hopefully, all the way throughout the bird, cooking it all the way to the inside. That's the idea anyway. Again, I don't know if this is gonna work. It's an experiment for me, it's an experiment for you. That's a hot fire. You can get about that close from it and it'll cook your hand. So that bird is definitely cooking. And if you're wondering about my shelter, yeah, I'm concerned about my shelter. If it gets any closer than that, that shelter's gone. Poof, gone. That's a hot fire. even with just the ashes. So it's cooking, definitely cooking. If we're going half an hour pound, it's between 6 and 10 pounds, probably closer to 7, 8 in that range. Talking about 4 hours of cook time. So gonna take a while. We got to be patient. We only got one shot at this. If we blow our one shot, that's it. Can't open it up and then cover it back up again. Once it's open, that's it. Then you're on to rotisserie, I suppose. So there is a backup plan there. Whatever happens, this bird's not going to waste. So the idea is that I at least get a leg cooked here and then get an estimate or an idea of how well it works. And then I can go from there. So hoping to get at least a leg cooked, if not the whole bird. That would be ideal, obviously. If it's a little bit uncooked on the inside, that's all right. That's something that can be corrected. But if it's totally raw, you know, I'd consider that a failure. So we're going to be patient. I'm going to give it at least another 2 hours. That should be about 3.5 total, 4 hours total cook time. So we'll be patient here and let the fire do its job. All right, it's time to unearth this thing. I consider it a success if I can take one of the legs and just pull it right off and have it cooked right through. So what are your first impressions? There's a lot of feathers left on it still, that's for sure. There's a lot of ash in it, that's for sure, which is not to be unexpected. You can see how a lot of cracks had formed in the coating, it looks like. It looks like it's cooked, it's hot. The outside is nice and golden brown. It's in edible condition, I'd say. It's like an overdone Christmas turkey. Are we gonna eat it is the question. I've got my stone knife, are we gonna eat it? Of course we are. Gotta give it a go. So what I'm gonna try to do is get those feathers off as best as I can. So I probably should take off what I think is a good piece of meat, because I don't think it's fair to just take off a piece that is all crusty and dry. After being out here all day, I wish I could just dive into it. But it's so hot. It must be all those oils in there that are just making it so darn hot. But it's well cooked. So all in all, I think I did a good job. I'm impressed. The flavor and taste is fantastic, even with absolutely no spices, none added. And that's as good as something you would get from a grocery store, as long as you don't mind picking around all that burnt that burnt part. But modern people such as myself have to relearn these techniques. So just like you might burn your first turkey in an oven, I'm doing this without any instructions at all. So consider that. So that's the leg meat. Very tender and oily. So thanks to the skin for that, keeping that in there. I'd say my first impression right away is I probably would not do it like this again. I would probably pluck it, dry pluck it, and wrap it. I've done a video on this before where I used a piece of venison and I wrapped it, and it turned out wonderfully. I probably slightly overcooked it, the venison because it was a smaller piece of meat and I want to make sure. And this one's probably cooked in some places, in fact burnt on the top and undercooked at the bottom. But I think it's important to run these experiments again because very few people are familiar with how the techniques work in primitive cooking of meat like this. And I had lots of questions too, but I couldn't find any answers for them. I wanted to know if it was possible to do it with the feathers on and if the clay would pull the feathers out. Looks like that's not really the case here. It didn't happen that way, but that could be because the underside's not quite done. And I want to know if you could leave the guts inside and cook it. Well, there were some concerns when we did the porcupine that the intestines would explode if we were scorching it. But as you can see, we've cooked this bird entirely and there is no exploding intestines. In fact, what you would continue to do is eat down to the bottom and work around the internal organs, leaving them all in place and not touching them, not fussing with them. Good stuff. Very good. Alright guys, you can subscribe or not, I don't care. But I do care about you. I'm not saying I don't care about you when I say you can subscribe or not. What I'm saying is, if you like what you see, you can subscribe. If you don't, it doesn't bother me. If you're wondering what I'm going to do with the rest of this bird, I'm going to take it home. And my family can eat it. It's way too much food for me to eat. It's always neat to see what's on the trail camera. This is a Spy Point trail camera, solar powered. It's pretty cool. But it's gonna hit play here, and we got a big fat doe hanging around here. So I always use the trail camera. It's been up for a long time, and there's not a whole ton of activity here, but there is a big fat doe hanging around. So that's pretty neat. If I get a doe tag, she'd be on the menu, but I don't know if I'll hunt here that much, to be honest. I do see a lot more deer on the other side, so I may put the trail camera over there. But anyway, I recommend the Spy Point. Get the solar power. This thing's lasted like all summer like this. I haven't changed the batteries yet. I think these are the original batteries I brought to Texas with me, so they've lasted until from spring till late summer now. So yeah, that doe's hanging around, checking out the area, sniffing around, checking out what the trail camera's up to. That's pretty cool.